Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Well, the 1980s are back. Like the headphones? Marvin Hagler has ended his retirement. He's back. He's now a cruiserweight. He's Russian. He claims to be in his mid-20s. And he's calling himself Murat Gassiev. Let me just say, what do I mean with the Marvin Hagler analogy? Not a lot of bob and weave. Not a lot of back foot. Short power punches, right? No wind up. Short punches. Stands upright. Not bashful about coming forward. In the pre-fight video, I pointed out that Wlodarczyk has a chin on him. Well, there's more than one way to knock a man out, isn't there? Gassiev comes in, left uppercut. The very next punch is a left to Wlodarczyk's kidney area. Game, set, and match. For the gamblers, you were taken care of because the hedge held, the under held, because this fight didn't make it to the end of the third round. I would have preferred Wlodarczyk to win the fight because they were bigger odds, right? And I'm big game hunting. But I'll take the hedge, right? Live for another day. Now, I don't say this lightly. This cruiserweight tournament is one of the absolute best tournaments I've ever seen in my life. What more do you need? Alexander Usyk unbeaten. Maris Briedis unbeaten. Dorticos unbeaten. Gassiev unbeaten. You have fights ending in dramatic fashion. I'm just telling you. Whoever wins these next two fights is going to set up one of boxing's must-see events, the cruiserweight final, right? It's going to be heavy, folks. It's going to be heavy. Let me just say, too, that you're talking about guys who are just perfectly paired because two of the better stylists in the sport are Usyk and Briedis, right? And, of course, two of the better punchers in the sport. Look at the KO ratios. Are Dorticos and Gassiev, right? Understand, Wlodarczyk before this fight had never been stopped, right? Hadn't been knocked out. He did not make it to the start of the fourth round, right? So I don't know what's going on with American TV. I don't know what yahoos they have running the boxing media outlets here in the United States. It is simply ridiculous. I cannot emphasize how absurd it is that with some of boxing's best fights coming out of the cruiserweight division, American TV has not picked up this series and hasn't emphasized it with a heavy ad campaign. Folks, there's more to championship boxing than Saul Alvarez and the heavyweight division. Let me let you in on a secret, too. Gassiev, after this fight, said, look, now keep in mind, Gassiev, as it is way too big for cruiserweight. Just look at his height, right? This guy's well over 6 feet tall. Way too big for cruiserweight, as is Usyk. These guys are accomplished fighters. I'm just telling you, Gassiev, after beating Wlodarczyk, admitted that after he picks up some titles at cruiser, he's going to go big game hunting himself in the heavyweight division. Now, I've been here online saying that, in my opinion, Alexander Usyk and Maris Briedis today can beat some of these heavyweight champions. Right? I have no idea how anyone who follows the heavyweights is convinced that Deontay Wilder can beat Alexander Usyk. I'm certainly not. right? So I need for you to keep an eye on these guys at Cruiser. They're big enough. Quite frankly, they're more experienced with more skills than some of the guys at heavyweight. Don't be the casual fan who's just blinded by weight classes, right? Who seems to think that bigger necessarily means better. What I want you to do is to look at Joe Frazier's weight for his first fight against Ali. One of the biggest heavyweight championship fights in the history of the sport. Understand, it was so big, they just call the fight just that, the fight, right? Joe Frazier weighs less than 210 pounds. Less than 210 pounds for that fight. Knocks down Ali, battle of unbeatens. Knocks down Ali, reaffirms his status as world heavyweight champion. I'm just telling you, boxing runs in cycles, right? We all remember the big, tall guys, Larry Holmes, others, who ruled the roost in the heavyweight division in the 1980s. Then along comes a shorter, nimble Mike Tyson, who mows them down like a bowling ball knocking down bowling pins. Right now you have big guys and everyone can't envision, can't imagine a smaller guy coming in and beating up these bigger heavyweights. Folks, that's the history of the sport, right? That's where the sport has been. It runs in cycles, right? That was Jack Dempsey knocking out Jess Willard, right? Look up the history of the sport. When you see heavyweights who are big and clunky, like Anthony Joshua, can't hide his upper body, or heavyweights who look clueless if a guy gets inside on him, revisit the film of Deontay Wilder against Chris Arreola, right? And we all know that's an older Arreola. That's not even Arreola in his prime. Getting inside and giving Deontay Wilder all kinds of problems. Now what I want you to do is to look at the cruiserweights. Look at Usyk's amateur pedigree. Look at the KO percentages that these guys have at cruiser. Look at the fight, Maris Briedis against Manuel Charr, and ask yourself, who did better against Manuel Charr? Vitaly Klitschko or Maris Briedis? Right? I'm just telling you that whoever comes out of this cruiserweight tournament is going to be a serious threat to the heavyweight champion. Whoever doesn't come out of this cruiserweight tournament is going to be a serious threat to the heavyweight champion. You just saw a guy, Wlodarczyk, with more than 50 wins, who had never been stopped, get stopped early by Gassiev, right? Who drops him on a left hand, and Gassiev is right-handed. Look at Gassiev's height. Somebody explain to me why Gassiev won't be able to get inside on some of these heavyweight champs. And if he gets inside, are you certain that Anthony Joshua, who has never gone the distance in a fight, I'm not even talking about title fights, nobody, Joshua's never gone the distance in a fight. Are you sure he's going to have the experience to handle a guy like this? Let me just say, too, Gassiev is a little bit upright, and he's tall, unlike Marvelous Marvin Hagler, right? By the way, that's his legal name. Hagler showed up for a fight. His opponent was called his stage name, right? Some name like Sugar Ray Leonard or something like that. This was before the Leonard fight. And Hagler was upset. Hagler said, hey, how come I'm introduced as Marvin Hagler? And they don't call me Marvelous Marvin Hagler. So they told Hagler, the reigning middleweight champion, that he would have to change his name. This is boxing's double standard. To be called Marvelous Marvin Hagler by the ring announcer. And that's what Marvelous Marvin Hagler did. Now, Hagler's shorter than Gassiev, so he's a little bit more elusive coming inside. Gassiev, to me, is upright. He's a target to get hit as he comes inside. That's why I personally feel Usyk or Maris Briedis would be a better challenge for a heavyweight champion than Gassiev. But don't kid yourself. In terms of talent, the cruiserweight division has few peers. Few peers. You don't see a lot of light heavyweights. We're hearing about Kovalev and Adonis Stevenson. Hey, no matter how dominant they look at 175, you don't see them jumping to 200 because they know what's at 200. Folks, it's a different game. When you see guys at 200 with the kind of agility and the kind of defensive skills that an Usyk has, right? The kind of amateur pedigree, right? Not just a gold medal where the scoring's a little bit uneven in a match in the contestant's home country, but Olympic gold medals earned on the road where the guy had to travel, right? When you look at the guys he's beaten, guys in their prime, not guys with big names who have been out of the ring for more than a year before the big fight, like Vladimir Klitschko was, right? Then you'll know Usyk's a bad man. I think Maris Briedis is a bad man. I'll agree. Briedis looked lackluster against Mike Perez. By the way, let's be real here. Mike Perez lost that fight. Right, didn't he? Right? I'm just telling you, big clunky guys would have a hard time with smaller, agile guys who have punches. If you don't believe Maris Briedis has a punch, again, revisit the Manuel Char film. Char is unconscious, leaning over the rope at the end of the fight. That's a cruiser against a heavyweight, and the cruiser knocks out the heavyweight cold. And to the American boxing media, you know, I'm so tired of the fan club presentation for casual fans, right? Let's be real here. Canelo lost to Golovkin. I know there's some names out there, James DeGale, for example, saying, hey, let's face it, it was a close fight. Somebody tell me how it's a close fight after looking at the CompuBox numbers. Can we stop this farce, please? Quite frankly, Canelo, and I know he's a cash cow. I know he's a cash cow, right? But Canelo's not even the second best at middleweight. Who would you take if he fights Danny Jacobs? Right? I like the welters. I like the welters. When is the last time Keith Thurman had a fight? What's the deal with Sean Porter? Is he in witness protection? How come he's not fighting more? Right? The bottom line is the American boxing media, these outlets, HBO, Showtime, how they're ignoring the cruiserweight division. When the cruiserweight division has so many elite fighters who are unbeaten. Again, Usyk unbeaten, Briedis unbeaten, Dorticos unbeaten, Gassiev unbeaten. That's an embarrassment. Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I would have preferred Wlodarczyk to win simply from a betting angle, but the hedge held, the under held. You knew this fight was not going to go the distance, right? Just off the styles of the fighters. That's how dramatic the cruiserweight division is right now. Let me say this too. That Dorticos-Gassiev fight, you better be in front of your TV when they ring the opening bell. Because both of those fighters, again, two unbeaten guys, will be on the clock. That fight is almost certain not to go the distance, right? They're not playing games of cruiserweight. The 1980s, quite frankly, are back in that division. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.